Hi, and welcome to my first screencast. In the next 25 minutes, I would like to show you how I implement a new feature to my side project called Abot. The goal of this screencast is not to show you how the feature itself works. It will be better handling for monthly subscription payments, but rather to show you my workflow when I work with Rails apps and some productivity techniques and tools which I use. So let's get started. I use a B-Focused Pro Pomodoro timer. Okay, so first thing I usually do when I start working on a feature and want to focus is to disable distractions. So as you can see, I can access my Twitter and it's kind of distracting. So let's get it fixed. I use a simple bash script to block distracting hosts when I want to focus. It's called block. And I will link to it in the show notes, but what it does is it acts kind of a couple of entries to etc hosts files. So as you can see now, when I restart my browser, I can now use Twitter or Facebook. It's blocked. So let's get started with coding. So I use a ZSH plugin and also Z plugin for folder navigation. So I just need to type Abot and it gets to my desired directory. So currently I'm on a master branch, so let's check out the staging, and that's how I usually work when I add a new feature. First test them on staging and then deploy them to production. So I'm a bit old-fashioned. I still use Zeus instead of Spring. Maybe I should switch, but Zeus is good enough for me. So I have an alias ZS, which starts as Zeus process. I use a Sublime text with V plugin, and I will show you the controller we're working on. It's called plans controller, and there's plans controller spec there. So basically what I usually do when I work, I just press command dot to copy the path of the file I'm currently in, and I type zr to run the specs. So as you can see, there are currently 4 specs in the file, and they are all passing. You can like the full suite by saying zrr. And as you can see, the test suite is quite quick, around 5 seconds to execute. Okay, so I will tell you what I would like to do in this feature. Paddle payments are handled using webhooks, and currently I'm only supporting one type, one which says subscription created. So what I would like to do is to add handling for another type of event whenever someone makes next payment for the subscription. Currently it's not subscribed, I only receive a notification to Slack, and I would like to hook it to the application logic. Also currently I'm not checking if someone renewed his subscription because they are monthly. They have been implemented less than a month ago. So the way it looks is there's a model team and there's a model method called hasAccess, and currently it checks if there is a subscription, which is the old handling for payments, and if there's a plan present. So basically plan is the model which has all the data about subscription, and now it only checks if the plan is present, not if the plan is still valid, if it has been paid for. So that's what I would like to implement in the next 20 minutes. That's the landing page of my project. Here's the pricing page. So if you want to subscribe, you have to sign in. So as we can see, we are logged in, and the test account I'm using is currently not subscribed. So the way it works is that you have to click subscribe now button, choosing correct plan, and it takes you to the checkout page powered by Paddle, and when you enter your email address, then I receive a webhook and set correct data in database. So currently it supports only one event. I will be adding handling to another event now. Okay, so let's see how we approach it. So basically, I will start from adding another when statement to this controller, add a new service object which handles the logic, and write some specs for it on the way. Okay, so let's see the paddle docs, how it works. I will be adding handling for the subscription payment succeeded. So let's see the fields here. Okay, these are the fields I need to somehow implement. So I think I will add with adding a spec for this event. So this one we can reuse. I will start from valid params context. And the event is called not subscription created, but rather subscription payment succeeded. So this one, let's start with writing a simple spec which checks if a correct service object has been executed. We'll implement it later on. So I will make a simple assertion like expect. We'll call the service object plan. Let's call it paid. To receive call. Let's start with a very simple spec and see where it takes us. Okay, so as you can see, there is not plan paid object right now, so let's add it. And we'll just copy everything from it. Like basically, I usually use my gem smart init for my service objects. I will link to it in the show notes, you can check it out, but for now let's just stick with an empty implementation. Plan, we need to fix the name. Okay, as you can see, it didn't receive call in the controller, so let's add a new when statement. And we'll add a new payment. What it does is it sends a Slack notification to my private Slack team with this string. I think it's a very good way to know what's going on in your project without having to check database every couple of minutes. I can show you how it looks. Notifier job. It's quite simple. It's just a sidekick worker class implemented with Slack notifier gem. Okay, so we call it plan paid. It didn't receive call. Why? Okay, because there's the wrong name of the event. So yeah, as you can see, specs are green now, so let's make a commit. I use tons of aliases for my Git flow. GM is git commit message. GDS, it's git diff stage. GTL is git diff last. I will link to all the aliases present in the screencast in the show notes. Okay, so we have like very dummy implementation of plan paid service which doesn't do anything yet. So I have to think how I'd like to spec it now. So basically I usually like to somehow test services in isolation, not in the controller's level. but currently I'm not sure how it will work. So in this kind of situation, I like to allow for a bit of integration between my layers. So I think I will test the whole workflow using controller specs, and maybe later on I will extract it in the init specs, but for now I feel like it's good idea to test it on a controller level, because I also don't have specs for plan created service. It's also tested on a controller level. So yeah, let's see with writing a simple spec. It does not create a new plan, right? It doesn't tell us anything. That's a good starting point. Expect post not to, what's the change? I think that's how it looks. Not to change. Yeah, it doesn't change the number of our plans, because plans is one per team. So now we'd like to check if it updates the plan data. So let's see how the plans table looks. It has paddle next build date attribute, and the way I see it is that subscription should be valid as long as the paddle next build date is in the future. So the way I would like to implement it is that this webhook should update the paddle next build date of a given plan, and that's how I will know that team has an access. So we'll need to add some mocks to this for our database, to have correct state of our database. So let's call it plan, and I think I don't have a factory for it yet, so we'll add a factory. It's associated to a team, it's associated to a user. Okay, and I think I also don't have a plan spec yet. Oh, I have a, no, it's empty. So let's implement it. I have like a snippet which adds an empty spec. It's good. Oh, it stopped working now. Okay, it stopped working, doesn't matter. So describe plan, and when I have a factory in the model, I always start writing from a simple spec which validates if it has a correct factory. So describe a factory. It creates a valid model instance, and let's do it like let plan create plan, expect plan to be valid. As you can see, it's not yet registered. We need to restart Zeus to do it. Well, what I like about Zeus so much in favor of Spring is that it's explicit that its process is running in a separate terminal. And I had some problems with Spring. I didn't know that it didn't reload, so currently I'm happy with using Zeus. So as you can see, there are not validations on this model. It's not the best implementation, but yeah, I will not be fixing it right now. But let's see what the plan should have. But we should have a basic, we should have a plan we can work with in our spec. So let's create it. Plan, and its team should be our team, and its payer should be our payer. Okay, let's see if it executes. Yeah, so now we want to make an assertion that receiving this webhook will update our plan. So it should update panel next build date. We can write an assertion that it changes plan reload panel next build date from we should somehow define it so that we can know that it changed. Like, let's say that they subscribe in 2018 April 22. So we want to make an assertion that the next build date was changed from the old value to the new value, which will be May. Let's see if it's correct. Undefined method pair, it should be a user. To change it's not to Okay, so we have some kind of formatting issue now, but I think we can fix it like this. Nope, so let's just cast it to string. Okay, it's still incorrect. We have some invalid formatting. Let's give this one to date. This one also called to date. Okay, so we have correct failing assertion now. We expected it to change from 22 of April to 22 of May, but it did not change. So yeah, we did a couple of things, so let's make a commit now. So let's push it. Okay, so let's make this spec passing now. So what we need to do is to implement the plan paid object now, and it's initialized with params, and we need to find out what kind of params we receive from the paddle. So these are these params that reach us. So this one is the same. This one is the same. Next build date. Pass-through is the name of the pair. So yeah, I think it should be enough if we just copy this one here. And it will still be failing, but now we'll implement it. So it will work the same as in the case of payment created, because we find user by pass-through, which we pass from our backend. It allows us to identify the plan. So now let's find a plan. Team plan find by. No, let's just use like team plan. I think the team has one plan. Yeah, team plan. Update. How is it called? Next build date. Next build date should be params fetch next build date. Whenever I encounter a bug like this, I have two tools which I use for debugging. One of them is an alias, Debugging. It stands for debug, so I could input Debugging here and add some debug statements. It's called puts debugging, but in this particular case I will use buyback. I have an alias bb, which stands for buyback. And what's nice about buyback is that it plays very nice with running specs. So whenever I insert a buyback breakpoint in my code, it stops there and I can see what's going on there. So let's see if we have a team, and let's see if team has a plan. So as you can see, the plan is nil. It's probably because I didn't eager load it in my spec. So let's run the spec again. Team has a plan now. So let's see, we can use n to continue program execution. And we can see that there is some exception here. We can display it. So it says that there is unknown attribute next build date. So it looks like I misspelled it. It should be called paddle next build date. And now when we run our specs, and they are green. So let's run the whole suite now. It looks like it's green, so I think we are good to deploy it to staging and production. I use free Heroku dynos for staging and Doku on Hetzner VPS for production. So let's start with deploying the code to staging. I have an alias gpstg, which stands for git push staging. And as the specs are green, I think we are okay to deploy it to production as well. So we just have to check out to master branch. I merge the staging branch to master. I usually use rebasing for merging branches. So we can push it to the master branch now, to our remote, and then we can deploy to production. The alias for it is gpdk, which stands for git push doku. So the staging deploy went through. The production deploy is on the way. I won't keep you waiting for it to finish because it takes around 2 minutes. So that's it for what I will be doing in this screencast. Next step will be to update the team models method has access to take our paddle next build date into account when deciding if team has an access, if he paid for his access in this month, but I won't be doing it in this screencast. So thanks for staying with me until the end, and let me know if you didn't know some of those tools and techniques I show you during this screencast, and see you next time.